The wounded commander hadn't spoken in 3 days. He sat rigid in that hospital bed, jaw locked, eyes burning with something the staff mistook for rage. 2 nurses had already requested transfers. The attending physician stopped making eye contact. Everyone feared him, and frankly, no one blamed him. What they didn't know was that his silence wasn't anger. It was grief wearing a uniform it no longer recognized. The morning shift change brought the usual chaos. Voices echoed through the hallway. Machines beeped in rhythmic protest. And somewhere down the corridor, a family argued with an insurance rep. The ER operated in its typical state of controlled disaster, a place where miracles and mistakes happen in adjacent rooms. Into this mess walked someone new. Young, female, scrubs still creased from the package. The kind of fresh-faced optimism that usually lasted about 6 hours in a place like this. She got assigned to the 4th floor. Trauma recovery, where they sent the cases that were stable enough to survive but too complicated to enjoy it. The charge nurse, a barrel-chested woman named Davis who'd seen 3 wars come home in pieces, handed over the chart without looking up. Room 412. The commander. Good luck. The way she said it sounded less like encouragement and more like an epitaph. The new nurse took the chart, flipped it open, scanned the basics. 42 years old, multiple shrapnel wounds, severe tissue damage to the right shoulder and chest. Surgery had gone well, technically, but the recovery notes told a different story. Refuses physical therapy, minimal verbal response, declining meals. The psych consult had been requested twice and ignored twice. A prescription for sleeping pills sat unfilled. Someone had written difficult patient in the margin, then scratched it out, then written it again. She walked to his room without hesitation. Didn't knock, just entered. The commander sat propped against thin pillows, staring at the wall opposite his bed like it owed him answers. His right arm hung in a sling, motionless. The left gripped the bed rail with enough force to drain the color from his knuckles. He didn't turn when she entered, didn't acknowledge her existence in any measurable way. She set the chart down, checked the 4, adjusted the monitor. Her movements were efficient, not hurried. There was no nervous energy, no chatty introduction, none of the forced cheerfulness that usually accompanied new hires trying to prove they belonged. She just worked. When she finally spoke, her voice was level. Your shoulder's locked up because you won't move it. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. He still didn't look at her. They already told me that. His voice came out rough, like gravel scraped across metal. She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat. Then why aren't you doing the exercises? Now he turned, slowly. The look he gave her was meant to end conversations. It was a look that had silenced subordinates, unnerved journalists, made generals reconsider their questions. She met it without flinching. He studied her for a long moment, searching for fear or pity or that particular brand of condescension that came wrapped in sympathy. He found none of it, just patience. Because it doesn't matter, he said finally. She tilted her head. Your mobility doesn't matter? He looked away. None of it matters. She didn't argue, didn't launch into a speech about healing or recovery or the preciousness of life. She just stood, made a note in his chart, and told him she'd be back in 2 hours. When she left, the room felt different. He couldn't explain why. Something about her presence had shifted the air pressure. 2 hours later, she returned, this time with a tray. Not the standard hospital meal, the kind that looked like food but tasted like regret. This was different. Real eggs, toast that was actually toasted, coffee that didn't smell like wet cardboard. He stared at it. Where'd this come from? She set it on his table. Kitchen downstairs owes me a favor. He didn't ask why. Didn't touch the food. Just watched her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. You know who I am, he said. It wasn't a question. She glanced at the chart. Says you're a patient in 412. He almost smiled. Almost. They told you I'm difficult. She sat again. They told me you're in pain. He scoffed. I've had worse. She nodded. I believe you. That night, the attending physician stopped by, Dr. Brennan. 15 years of emergency medicine, a man who prided himself on reading people quickly and accurately. He saw the new nurse in the hallway and pulled her aside. "You got assigned to the commander." She confirmed. "How'd that go?" She shrugged. "Fine." Brennan's eyebrows climbed. "Fine?" He made the last nurse cry. Literally cry. Told her to get out and not come back. The new nurse made a note in her tablet. He was hurting. People say things when they hurt. Brennan studied her the way you'd study something that didn't make sense. "You military?" She looked up briefly. "Why would you think that?" He gestured vaguely. "The way you move. The way you talk. Something." She went back to her notes. "Just a nurse, doctor." But she wasn't. Just a nurse. That is, the clues were there for anyone paying attention. The way she checked the room's exits when she entered. The efficient, economical movements that wasted no energy. The posture that remained perfect even after 12-hour shifts. The calm that didn't crack when the patient in 407 coded, and the hallway erupted into controlled chaos. She ran toward the emergency, not away. Gave clear, concise directions. Maintained situational awareness, even while performing chest compressions. When it was over and the patient was stable, she washed her hands and went back to her rounds without needing a moment to decompress. The commander noticed. Of course he noticed. He was trained to notice. On her third visit, he asked her a question. "Where'd you learn to run in 4-line like that?" She was adjusting his fluids. Didn't pause. Nursing school. He watched her hands. Steady. Confident. No wasted movement. They teach you to do it one-handed in nursing school? She'd been using only her left hand, keeping her right free. Old habit. She caught herself and smiled slightly. Old habit. He leaned forward as much as his injuries allowed. What kind of habit? She met his eyes. The useful kind. Days passed. He started eating. Started doing the exercises, though he pretended it was his idea. Started talking, though mostly to her and mostly in questions. She answered some, deflected others. The staff noticed a change, but attributed it to time, to healing, to the natural resilience of military men. They didn't see what the commander saw. Didn't notice how she anticipated his pain before he voiced it. How she understood the difference between physical hurt and the other kind. How she never once thanked him for his service, or called him a hero, or treated him like a monument to something he no longer believed in. One morning he asked her directly, "You've done this before?" She was checking his vitals. "Done what?" He gestured at the room, at himself, at the space between them. "This." Talked someone off a ledge they didn't know they were standing on. She recorded his blood pressure. "That's most of nursing." He shook his head. "That's not what I mean." She knew what he meant. Sat down. "Yeah, I've done this before." The breakthrough came during a nightmare. Not his, though he had plenty. This one belonged to the kid in 410. 19 years old. IED survivor. Legs gone below the knee. The screaming started around 2 a.m., the kind that turned blood cold. The commander heard it through the walls. Knew that sound. Had made that sound. The night nurse rushed past his room toward 410, looking panicked. Then he heard the other voice. Calm. Steady. The new nurse. She must have been on a double shift. He listened to her talk the kid down. Couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. She wasn't soothing him, wasn't placating. She was meeting him in that dark place and walking him back out. 30 minutes later, silence. The commander's door opened. She stepped in, looking tired but composed. Found him awake. "You heard that?" He nodded. She pulled up the chair. They sat in silence for a while. Then he said, "You know what it's like?" Not a question. She looked at her hands. "Yeah." He waited. She continued. Helmand Province. 2019, I was a combat medic. Marine Corps. Did 3 tours before I got out. The commander went very still. "You were a medic." She nodded. Attached to 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. We hit an ambush outside Sanjin. Lost half my unit in 40 minutes. I kept 3 guys alive long enough to get to evac. Wasn't enough. Never enough. The air in the room changed. Everything suddenly made sense. The calm under pressure. The efficiency. The way she understood his silence, without needing it explained. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. She looked at him. Would it have mattered? He thought about that. Maybe. She stood. You needed a nurse, not another reminder what you lost. Sometimes the uniform gets in the way of the healing. The next morning, Dr. Brennan made his rounds early, found the commander out of bed for first time, working through exercises with visible effort and audible pain. "Well," Brennan said, genuinely surprised, "this is progress." The commander paused, breathing hard. "Where's a new nurse?" Brennan checked his tablet. "Who?" "Oh, the one on your case. She's around." "Why?" The commander wiped sweat from his face. "I want to thank her." Brennan nodded approvingly. "Good. She's been good for you. Really turned things around. What did you say her name was again?" He pulled up the staff roster. Found her file. Opened it. His face went pale. "Oh, my God!" The commander noticed. "What?" Brennan turned the tablet around. The new nurse's full profile. Name. Credentials. Service record. They're in official text. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, United States Navy, retired. Navy Cross recipient. Former head of combat trauma response for Special Operations Command. She treated SEAL teams, Delta operators, Marine raiders. Had more combat medical experience than most field surgeons. Had saved lives in conditions that turned seasoned doctors into nervous wrecks. The commander stared at the screen. She never said. Brennan was still processing. "She's been working here as a floor nurse for 3 weeks. I assigned her to general recovery. I had a Navy Cross recipient emptying bedpans." He looked horrified. The commander started laughing. Actually laughing, the first time in months. She knew. She knew the whole time and never said a word. Brennan didn't understand. Why wouldn't she tell anyone? The commander understood perfectly. Because she wasn't here to be decorated. She was here to do the work. That afternoon, word spread to the hospital. The staff reacted with a mixture of awe and embarrassment. The nurse who'd requested a transfer from the commander's case felt mortally ashamed. Dr. Brennan personally apologized for the assignment beneath her qualifications. She took it all with the same calm she brought to everything else. "I'm right where I need to be," she told him. And she meant it. The commander recovered. Fully, not just physically. When he was discharged 6 weeks later, he could move his shoulder, sleep without medication, and look at the future without feeling like it was an enemy position. She walked him to the exit. At the door, he stopped. "Why'd you really come here?" She considered the question. "Same reason you're going to start living again. Because the fight isn't over. It just looks different now." He nodded. "Understood. Thank you, Commander." She smiled. "Just a nurse, remember?" Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who don't need you to know their strength. They show up, do the work, meet you in the dark without making a show of the light they bring. If this story reminded you why quiet competence beats loud authority every time, hit that like button. Drop a comment about a time someone surprised you with who they really were. And subscribe, because there are more stories like this one, about people who changed everything by simply showing up when it mattered. The heroes aren't always the ones wearing the medals. Sometimes they're wearing scrubs, holding your hand, and walking you back from the edge without ever asking for credit.